It's 7:31. I'm going to start the meeting. Waterford-East Lyme Shellfish Commission, May 20th, 2021. Call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. I will share my screen. All right, can you guys see the agenda there?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
All right, great. All right. I'd like to move around the order a little bit to old business item one, item old business E, the dock application for Coastline Consulting, Baskin, 44 Nyack Road, Waterford. I sent you the revised dock plan. Here's part of the email that was sent showing modifications. Dave, you're on the line?
I am, yes, thank you.
Okay, so I have two slides in addition to this. I have this slide showing the general area, and then this slide showing the dock specs with the original and the revised. So I'll go back to this, and you have the floor.
Great, thank you. So thank you for having me and moving me up on the agenda. I appreciate it. So this is for the Baskin property. I was before you last month with our original proposal, and I reviewed the comments from the commission with the owner, and you know, we considered several changes, and we've made those and submitted those before you. So what we've done is eliminate the large boat lift on the north side and the tie-off piles on the south side. So by doing so, we've reduced the total number of pilings by 5. And you can see the difference here. So now this is strictly a small boat dock, and you know, the boats that we're showing there are 16 feet. We're just showing them for scale on each side of the floating dock. And those are the changes that we've made. And it, you know, it certainly made a lot of sense to the owner after listening to your concerns. And so we wanted to make them as soon as possible and represent for your consideration. On the, I don't know if you have it here, but the profile, I added some additional dimensions underneath the pier. I don't think that was a big concern of the commission last time, but I just wanted to highlight that hopefully there's sufficient room underneath the pier for access. We do have, I think, anywhere from just over 6 feet up to almost 8 feet at the waterward end.
Yes, and I do not include these in the slides, but I did forward your email with the full design revisions to the commission, so they should be familiar with those.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so there's no change to the pier elevation. I just wanted to point that out, that there are some additional dimensions just for your review.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's basically the summary of the changes here.
All right. So I appreciate your consideration of our comments. For, you know, full disclosure, and I don't mean to say one way or the other how I feel about this, but OSCO offers our opinions to DEEP, and they may or may not be considered. So the changes you have made, it's up to you guys.
Understood, and I appreciate that.
Just for the process, you could submit the original design, and DEEP may or may not approve them. and you may come back with these designs. Obviously, this is more inclined to be approved, but I just want to make sure you are aware that we have advisory capacity, and the deep may or may not completely listen to what our recommendations are.
No, and yeah, thank you for explaining that. I think I certainly understand that, and I explained that to the owner. But I think it makes a lot of sense. The more cooperative, that we can be from an application standpoint, I think the more favorable it'll be received by everyone. And I think that was sort of the goal, of the owner here. So we wanted to take this opportunity to come back to at least present the changes.
Okay. I will open the floor to people who have questions to Mr. Provencher. Please speak up.
Rick Cantor, I'll just give you my general opinion. And I believe I probably voted in favor of the original design, but we appreciate the applicant taking our comments into consideration. It looks like the dock is still the same length from the shore, so that's not going to change. And I would think that it won't preclude the applicant from having a larger boat there if he wants. There's all kinds of boats now that have shallower drafts or can sit in the bottom. And if the water on the north side of the floating pier, is 3 or 4 feet, you should definitely be able to get a larger than 16-foot boat in there if so desired. Did you hear that, Peter?
Pete, you're on mute.
Yeah, I was muted. Sorry about that. Rick, yes, I did hear that, and thank you for that. Does any of the other commission members have comments or questions?
My feelings are still the same, Peter, as before, because it is a claiming area. And in my opinion, it will have an adverse effect on the shellfishing. So that's where I still stand. But I appreciate him coming back and revising and everything else, but my opinion still remains the same.
Thanks, Paul.
I do have one more, Peter.
Yes, go ahead.
I do have one more general comment, and this is a comment that I've made in the past, is that if may not be pertinent to this particular applicant, but if we advise the DEP that we think that docks are too big and they end up having to can only put in a 16 or 14-foot boat, then the guy wants a 22-foot boat, he's going to go to the town of Waterford and get a mooring to go along with the dock. So then the guy's going to have a dock and a mooring. The mooring's probably going to scour out eelgrass at low tidal changes. So sometimes, asking for a small dock or not approving a small dock may not be such a good thing.
This is true, Rick, but I think we should really have a joint meeting with harbor management sometime so we can get all the cards in order. And so we're on the same page, so we're working together to help the river. I really, once we get back to regular meetings, I would love to have a meeting with the other commissions to get all on the same page so we're staying in the right direction.
Yeah, good, Paul, I agree. Good communication is always a good thing.
All right. Are there any, I think we can move through this quickly. Are there any other comments or questions by the commission members? All right. So without those, I will entertain a motion that this dock revision will or will not adversely impact shellfish.
I'll make a motion that the revised Baskin design will not adversely impact Shellfish.
I'll second that.
All right, all right. So, so the motion on the table by Rick, seconded by Larry, is that this revised dock application will not adversely impact shellfish. The vote is on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
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 Oh, yeah, so that's hard to hear. So I'm just gonna do the roll call count. Pat Kelly? Pat, you're there, right? You might be muted, Pat.
I vote in favor.
All righty. All right. Rick, you vote in favor, I assume.
Correct?
Larry, you vote in favor, I assume.
Yes.
Marcia?
Yes.
Okay. Fred?
Yes.
All right. I will vote in favor. Paul Spakowski?
Nay.
Nay. Okay. All right. That vote passes on a vote of 6-1. So Dave, the vote is 7-1 in favor of approving your revision. Thank you very much. And I will send you the revised Deep Wellsco form. So thank you very much. And thank you for considering our concerns.
Great. Well, thank you all very much for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All righty. All right, we will move back to the agenda as submitted. Review and approval of the minutes from the previous meeting on, this is not the 18th of March, but it's April.
April
So I'll
15th.
fix that. Yeah, all right. So I'll figure out how to fix that. And I have the minutes here. Wait a minute.
I move the acceptance.
Oh, right. Okay, I had it right on the agenda. The 18th of March were the previous minutes, so that the minutes are correct. So has everyone reviewed them?
I move that we approve the minutes of April 15th, 2021.
I'll second it.
Second that is Paul. Paul, was that you?
Yes, that was me, Peter.
Okay, great. Is there any discussion or questions or revisions? All right, hearing none. All in favor to approve the motion to approve the minutes from April 15, 2021. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda is the treasurer's report. Pat?
Yeah, you have that in front of you. We did modify, I worked with Premier, and we incorporated the monthly with the fiscal year to date on the profit and loss. So does anyone have any questions on the financial statements?
Pat, I have one quick question on the sheet that shows the April 21, July 20 to April 21, and July 19th to April 20. Under warden hours on the April 21 sheet for East Lyme and Waterford, nothing is listed, but then down below, it says salaries warden, $510.12. Were there hours in April of 2021?
The warden's hours are where we bill the other commissions, and we didn't bill the other commissions in that period.
So we had, the wardens were out there doing their job, but we just didn't apply it to the East Lyme and Waterford hours. Is that what you're saying?
We didn't bill them. We bill them quarterly
Oh, okay, okay.
for the warden's times. And over the winter, the amount of hours that they put in is very trivial. So I probably like 5 months that I haven't billed them.
So that's not quarterly.
Right. And this has been an unusual year.
Okay. So can you give me an idea of how many hours $510.12 means? Approximately?
Not off the top of my head, but
What are they getting? They're getting what, 30 something an hour?
Maybe it's about 25. So keep in mind that Waterford Shellfish has a administrative close during the winter, so they do not patrol in that area. And then also the Nyack Bay is currently at a 3-inch rainfall, so the requirement for them to take water samples out there is very minimal. So the majority of those hours are from patrolling within the Nyack River. Again, I would have to go back and check on my hour approvals for Rich Schmiel, but
I'm adding them up now. I'll have them in a second.
Oh, thank you, Rick. I was just curious as to approximately how many hours you guys are out there in a month, you know, and
if you have these kind of questions, Marcia, why don't you send me an email ahead of the meeting so I'd be prepared to answer it?
Well, because I think Peter discouraged any email sending. He
well,
doesn't.
I think you can send, so to be clear on that issue, so you can send a email to Pat if you don't include a quorum of commissioners. Once you include a quorum of commissioners, it gets into an FOI liability. But if you are just interacting with a single or one other commissioner, I don't think it's a risk. And if you're asking a question, again, I think he can answer that. If you're proposing an idea and discussing a plan or a motion, then it gets into an area where it creates an FOI liability. But I think you can ask Pat a question and he just answers it factually. I think that's fine.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at, I would kind of like to see the amount of hours that happen monthly, because I'm just trying to get a handle on whether our permit fees are covering the amount of costs that we're doing with all of the warden's hours and the boat launch and all that sort of stuff. And if you know, maybe in the future years, we might need to go up on our fees. So that was just a curiosity of mine as to whether we're breaking even, whether we're losing lots of money, or exactly where we stand. I think that's just fiscally responsible to look at. And it's
Right.
something that we might want to consider. And maybe Rick, you could do that as part of your report, is to say, okay, this month the wardens were out there for so many hours, or, you know, that sort of thing.
Okay, in April, I don't have Brad's hours in front of me.
That's okay. I was just.
I had 6.5 Wellsco hours, 2.25 Waterford, and a half for East Lyme in April.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And do you think Brad had less than that?
He might have had a little bit more. I was trying to let him do a few more hours.
Okay, so probably less than 20 hours.
Yeah, I would say, because it was more. We did more weekends just to try to save costs because it wasn't particularly busy. There were people out during the week, but if I drive by and I see, we know most of the regulars, so if I drive by and I see their boats, I don't see any point in going and checking them.
Gotcha. And this, I'm just trying to get a handle on where we stand, financially. That's my whole purpose for that. Thank you, Rich.
Okay.
And that is a fair inquiry, Marcia. All right, I'll entertain a motion. Has the treasurer's report been fully discussed? All right, I'll entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report as submitted.
I make a motion to approve.
Second,
Oh, yes. Do I hear a second?
second,
Larry. All right. Motion to approve the treasurer's report as submitted. All in favor, say aye.
aye,
Opposed? Abstained? Treasurer's report is approved unanimously, 7-0. Chief Warden's report. Rich?
Okay, I don't have a ton. It's been fairly slow since B South closed. We're open B North and A, and I don't expect a lot of activity now until people can actually wade without waders. That seems to be our summer crew in those two areas. The boat's about due for oil service and whatnot. However, the chances of getting that in right now are pretty slim. The marinas are just slammed. Last Sunday when I was out, it was a wicked low tide and not a hint of wind. So I looked around. I could not find a scallop, for whatever that is worth. However, from the mid-river on the western side is absolutely loaded with eelgrass right now. So that might be of some benefit to us if the boats don't churn them up too bad.
What side, Rich, what side of the river again?
On the west side, on the East Lyme side. Like in front of Rick's house and north of there. It's quite heavy eelgrass. It's more than I've seen in a while. When I was clamming this winter, I did find some scallops that were, fingernail size. So there was some production somewhere. Although when we talked to the clammers, very, very few were actually finding adult scallops. And really, unless there's any other questions, the only other thing I had, Marcia, you were going to try to get some paperwork to me, and I never did hear from you on that.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were going to contact me. I apologize. That was on my list of things, and I was going to bring that up as to when. Yes, I have regulations and maps for you if you'd like.
Yeah.
Where do you live?
Okay, I thought you. What's that?
Where do you live? If you want me to bring them to you, you're welcome to me.
I think we left it last time. You were just going to get a hold of me, and I'd meet you down at the boat. Probably that's as easy as anything because I usually check the boat every couple of days, even if we're not using it.
Marcia, I
Yeah.
have keys to the warden's office. If you want to drop them off to me and I'll take them down. We also, about mid-June, the river starts warming up and we have to get Vibrio sheets out to the wardens and to the sales outlets. So I probably have about
Give
100.
those to me, Pat, and I'll be happy to distribute them.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think I have some of those, so the ones that we've been using, I can double check, but, we may just need to make copies of them, like run them off.
Rich, I will be happy to bring them to the boat, probably on Monday. Are you going to be there on Monday or this weekend?
No,
This week,
we have a funeral on Monday.
yeah, Monday there's a family funeral, so that's gonna be tough.
No, I don't, no problem.
Yeah.
Whatever- You know what, just give me a call, Rich, whatever time is good for you, give me a call and I'll be happy to
Okay,
deliver 'em,
all right,
okay?
that'll work out the best, probably.
Yes.
Um,
And one other question I did have for you, I was wondering, when you see, I know you know your regulars that are out there, the other people, when you go up to people, approximately how much % of the people don't have permits? Is it mostly?
zero.
Really? That's good to know.
The-
Okay.
Yeah, the only time we really find people without permits will be in the summer when they're either renting or staying at a friend's house somewhere along the shore. They see people out clamming and there's rakes on the porch.
Ah, okay.
And, you know, they're from Indiana and they don't know it one from the other and they go out and they just think you can go clamming.
Okay. Okay.
We've very, very, very seldom, probably all winter long, we found 2 or 3.
Okay. Now, I
Without-
don't know whether this is the right time, Peter, but the reason that Austin Clark is on the meeting tonight is because he has a little gadget that he's willing to give us at cost that shows the size, the legal size of scallops, oysters, and whatnot. We can wait for new business or we could talk about it now.
Sure.
Whatever your pleasure.
Let's.
Can I ask one question before Rich gets off the line? And that is, Rich,
Yep.
while you were out there and you said exceptionally low tides and you were able to see the bottom real well, were you able to identify any oysters? Because we did plant quite a few out there in the area you just referenced.
Where the majority of oysters right now that I can tell you can see are out in around Horse Point down in the entrance of Keeney Cove. There's a lot of them there. The ones that we put in along Route 156, I think they got picked over pretty good. There's still a good number there, but where we put them, I would have had a hard time even getting in on Sunday. It was that low.
Okay, what about the campgrounds? Because we put a fair amount in the.
Yeah, we put a fair amount in there. Nobody's been touching them, and when I've gone in there this winter, I could see them.
Okay,
So they're still there.
I took them out of there.
so long as you only took your quota, Paul.
I actually only took 30 of them.
Just how many days did he
And
take?
they were
30?
just over 3 inches, so.
Yeah, and I still would advocate for a number limit versus a peck limit on the oysters if we're going to try to propagate them in the river.
I would agree with you, Rich.
The peck of oysters is a way big number from what we put in.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. All right, Rich, thank you very much.
Okay.
So Peter, did you want to hear from Austin or did you want to wait until new business?
We can jump to Austin. Before we get to that, Tom Bolin was in the waiting room for a little bit, and I did not realize that. So based on this technology here, I thought it would be acceptable to allow Tom to vote on motions where he was on the line, but I had not admitted him. Does anyone have any objection to that?
Nope. No.
No,
All right, Tom, when were you here for the dock application? That was the first motion that we gave.
While I was here, I was trying to get in about 7:30 and it just,
Yeah, were you able to hear the conversation?
no.
Okay, so based on that, I'm gonna just, the vote passed 6-1, so it doesn't matter too much. You did see the revisions in the email though?
Yes.
So you can either vote, or if you don't want to vote, we can either count it as an abstention or not. It's up to you. Again, it won't matter too much.
Yeah, I just assume not vote.
Okay, all right. And then the other two motions were the minutes, which you've had a chance to review. That was approved 7-0. Would you like to vote, or does it matter?
I'll vote on that. I read the minutes and,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, so I'm going to change that vote to 8-0. And then the treasurer's report, were you able to review that, and do you have a vote one way or the other?
I'll vote for that as well.
Okay, all right, all right. All right, new business. This is an item that was, I think all of you saw this. This was a shellfish sizing gauge. This will be new business that will be added. So just to maintain Robert's Rules of Order, I will entertain a motion to allow Mr. Clark to discuss his product to the commission. Do I hear a first?
So moved.
I'll second
Okay,
it.
Marsh. Okay, who was that? Was that Paul?
That's me, Paul, yeah.
Okay. Motion on the table to allow Mr. Clark to discuss with the commission his shellfish sizing gauge product. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Aye.
Okay, anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes 8-0. Mr. Clark, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much,
Yeah,
Peter.
so Marcia has sent me the email and I have forwarded it to the commission. I do not have a slide of your product, but I think we've all seen it, and you have the floor to discuss it. I think you're on mute. Let me unmute you. You're still on mute, Austin. No, not yet. Let me see if I can, okay, let me see if I can unmute you on my end as the admin. Okay, try that. There might be some audio settings for this that you might have to fiddle around with. We still can't hear you.
Does he want to leave the meeting and try joining the meeting again? Sometimes that works.
Yeah, Yeah, Mr. Clark, what you could do is you could dial it, you could leave the meeting and I will watch on the waiting room. If you come back in, maybe that will work. So if you hang up, I will watch and you can rejoin.
Peter, we have a lot of old business to go through. Maybe we should go back to our agenda, and then if Mr. Clark comes on, we can go back to him in new business.
Yeah,
I'm here, I believe.
yes, we can hear you. So
Okay.
you have the floor.
All right, great. Thanks very much for accommodating me, and just I'm also going to try to join in the Zoom so you can see me at least anyway. But this design that you saw on an email that Peter and Marcia have sent out is something that we in Stonington have been working on for a while. We call it the Kite Design because at its broadest point of the kite is 3 inches, which is the legal size for oysters. We have the 1.5-inch circle for hard-shell clams, and then there's a 2-inch notch. Oh, am I double now?
Yeah, so you've connected with your audio.
Okay, all right.
He's
No.
muted though.
Yeah, so unmute your line. So something is wrong with your computer audio. So we're going to do a little old business. If you have the patience to call back in, stay on your phone, and I will admit you through the phone, but I will not admit you through the video. And you can, but thank you for your patience. All right, moving on to old business, item A, review of insurance policies and coverage. Working with Fred, I sent an email to the Waterford Town Attorney, Rob Avina. He was going to try and talk to the woman that was managing our potential workman's comp policy and had the issues with just the confusion or misunderstanding about us being a commission versus a company, et cetera, et cetera. Fred, I don't know if you have heard back from Attorney Avina. I have not. So if you wanted to give an update on what you have, if you have anything.
Sure. No, I haven't heard back from Avina yet, but I have been in touch with Ashley Reed. She's the individual who works with the town of Waterford on their insurance. And she's been helpful with regard to what we need to do, but we're dependent on Bob getting back to us from an entity standpoint, because that's almost like the first step in the whole process. We have to identify what and who we are before we can proceed with filling out all the other blanks. So we're just waiting on Rob Avina.
All right.
She's ready and willing to work with us as soon as we get the information that we need.
So should we light a fire under Mr. Avina's?
I will get back to him again to see where he's at. You know,
They're gonna bring me back on in a minute, and then I'll be done.
yeah, so I think we can do what we can do, and we have email documentation that we're trying to resolve this. So I think there's a precedent that we're trying, and you know, this is what we can do. So I trust Rob Avina is very busy, and he will help us as soon as possible. I will check with him in the next day or two on the status.
Anything I can do, Pete, in that respect, let me know.
All right, will do.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Clark, you're
I'm back.
on your phone, and just keep talking.
All right, wonderful. I think you've seen the design by picture, and we call it a kite design because at its widest point, it's 3 inches, the legal size for an oyster. Then we have the 1.5 inch circle for a hard shell clam. And then in the upper left-hand angle that goes back to the narrowest part of the kite, we have a 2-inch notch for scallops. And so and just so your members know, and I do sympathize with whoever is your recording secretary, because I am the recording secretary and a commissioner in the town of Stonington. And these Zoom meetings have made taking minutes virtually impossible. But I certainly sympathize with your recording secretary. We just thought that there would be this gauge is a multi-purpose gauge, because some of the bait shops in our town just sell an 1.5 inch stainless steel ring, or many people just use PVC pipe of an 1.5 inch size and use that. But this is a multi-purpose gauge, and so we thought we would design this. And the challenge we've had is to find a production facility that would take this project on, because the numbers are not certainly large. And so the unit cost is more than we think it should be. And if we do find an appropriate plastics manufacturer, we hopefully would be able to get a die or something made that we could then produce these gauges in a reasonable quantities for, we'd like to be able to produce them, less than a $2 cost, we would hope. But at the moment, these things are costing us a little more than $3 a unit. And but I will say that I think the retail market for a gauge like this, a multi-purpose gauge, is probably $6 or $7. So there certainly is room there for commissions to do what they will with it and that sort of thing. So
have you considered contracting someone with a 3D printer?
That's how we make them now, and the cost, that's why it's producing this cost the way it is.
Okay.
But I would be certainly willing to talk to anyone that has one to see if, who's produced this for me, if he's in the ballpark with his cost to me. And he's using PET G, I believe, is the plastic product he's using.
So I have a question for Mr. Clark.
Yes, please call me Austin.
Awesome. So we appreciate you coming to our meeting to let us know of your product. I'm not sure what we could do with it. You really need to go to the outlet to sell it to people who, sell clam permits and clam paraphernalia. But
Correct.
I think, I believe, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that we have a different size for scallops. I don't think a 2-inch scallop is going to work around here. So probably if your product was sold to the outlets around here, it would confuse the purchasers. We went through a process up in Hartford with the legislature several years ago about increasing our scallop size because research had shown that a lot of 2-inch scallops could be juveniles.
Okay.
So just curious as to how you have 2 inches, or how long you've had 2 inches, or have you had any updates on that recently?
It's kind of what the state guideline was and what the town of Stonington uses, and but you're right. I think you folks are known for your scallops, and though we don't have very many in Stonington either.
Right. So I used to live in Stonington. I used to go scalloping there, and there used to be tons of scallops, like Wickety-Quack Cove and places like that. But I don't think, unless we both have the same size for scallops, that gauge is probably not viable around here.
I will check on that. I appreciate that feedback. That's not what I've heard, but I certainly will check on that.
Okay.
Yeah, to add what Rick said, during our scallop seasons of past, we also instituted a growth ring as a determination of maturity. And,
Correct.
And that has been the primary driver in whether it was a legal scallop or not. So regardless of the size, if it did not have a growth ring, it was not going to be legal.
Correct. And as I said to Marcia, when she, emailed me, we emailed back and forth. I'm out of town. I also didn't bring a sample to show it in my camera, and where I am is my second most favorite place to clam and shellfish, and that's Martha's Vineyard, and that's one of the rules out here is it has to have a growth ring on the scallop in their scallop season.
So
Okay.
Austin, were you thinking that we could market these? Is that what you were looking to do? To have us market them for you, or?
We were going to make them available to bait and tackle shops that sell permits, and that's how we sell. The bulk of our permits are sold by 2 bait and tackle shops in Stonington. Town Hall doesn't sell as many as these 2 shops, and so that's what we thought we would do, because it really is a more multi-purpose, a multifunctional gauge than just the 1.5-inch ring they sell today. And it also then allows for the oyster to be properly measured, and because most folks, I just don't think they even have the 3-inch thing. My shellfish permit holder is a plastic, envelope that has a 3-inch gauge on it, but no one ever pulls an oyster up and uses that gauge to measure it, I'm pretty sure.
Well, presently, our town halls are our major outlets for permits, but J&B Tackle and Mackey's Bait and Tackle are our other 2 sources of permits. Other than that, we have no other sources.
Right.
But East Lyme Town Hall is our major, and I don't know, I shouldn't speak for them, but I don't think they want to be in the retail business of selling the gauges. I was thinking more along the lines with maybe increase the permit fee a little bit and hand out a little gauge with every permit.
We've thought about that in Stonington as well, to tell you the truth, and the cost of these things probably is making it so that we're having second thoughts on that, but that's still an option.
Gotcha.
So I have a couple more questions. One for Marcia. You said J&B and Mackey's in the town hall. So did J&B start selling permits recently? Or?
Yes. The last time we checked, Hilliers refused to sell, so I was asked to go out and find a couple more places. I was able to find J&B, and Mackey's is still functioning.
And you say Hilliers refused. Is that the old Hilliers or the new people who bought it, or
That is the people that are opened right now, and
they don't want to sell them? Just curious, why don't they want to sell permits?
they think it's a distraction for their business, and it's not worth it. I had a long discussion with the fellow.
Okay.
He's got our information up. I gave him a poster to put up, and which directs people to go to the town halls or to Mackey's or to J&B, but he will not sell it at this time.
And a question for Austin. If in fact we have different scallop sizes, if your gauge has got 4 sizes, maybe you can have 2 inches on one side and 2.5 inches on the other side, and then your gauge can be sold anywhere probably.
Yeah, is that the size that you are saying that you recommend folks adopt?
I'm just saying that's what we use, although we do have the growth ring, because the
Right.
growth ring is the best indicator whether it's an adult that's possibly spawned. But
And I think in the state regulations, if you look at the state chart, I think you will see that asterisk note in the bottom of the state chart that does require a growth ring for all towns.
Yeah, so that an interesting, that's a neat little gauge you have there. I saw it. You sent that through the Sea Grant listserv as well?
Tessa lives in Stonington, and I attended the annual meeting in February by Zoom, and learned a lot and heard Marcia's name. And there's another commissioner in Stonington and myself that are trying to develop an outreach program for the Stonington residents and show them where our recreational areas are, how easy it is to go out and shellfish, and what a great activity it is. And so I went to visit Tessa at her home and showed her this gauge that we've been working on, because we'd mentioned it to her, and then she said she would put it out to all the commissions. And so I just thought we would introduce it and let folks say, yeah, this gauge really does work pretty well, because it's not just the 1.5-inch ring that people seem to use when they're out there. And we've had prototypes made in stainless steel, aluminum, regular steel, and also in this plastic. So we just thought we'd try to keep the cost down, is what the biggest driver here is, and yet make it accessible for people to use, because we'd like them to have something to properly measure all types of shellfish.
Yeah. Does this float or does this sink?
It's pretty dense. I've not done it yet. I've used it near the water, but I haven't dropped it to really find out, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Okay. I think there is some possible benefit to, since the town halls sell most of our permits now, that they cannot give out gauges, and I don't know if it would be a cost benefit analysis to have them have 100 on stock and just give out the gauges when people don't have them, and maybe that would cut down on inadvertent taking of undersized clams. So in the long run, it might be worth it for Wellsco to buy a bunch, but that's not just my opinion. So
yeah. And I think Marcia, kind of hinted at that in an email to me, and certainly, I'd replied that, I'd be happy to accommodate that for you.
Yeah, and I appreciate your invention and your ability to go forward with this and try to help out all these commissions, because I think it's just very convenient for the clammers we have a lot of inexperienced people that go out there, especially in the summertime. And if they had a gauge, I think it would be helpful.
And I agree, Marcia, and I also think that's part and parcel of an outreach or educational program that any of these towns run, and have this as well. Our thought was to have a demonstration waterside, show the gauge, and also then show people how to open a clam properly with a proper clam knife, not a sharp knife, and that sort of thing, for safety purposes. So that's kind of, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, Marcia, because we had said, as you know, after that February meeting, you know, I'm interested in learning to see what any other town does with their outreach programs.
At the present, we don't have much.
Yeah.
Nor do we.
Yeah, and unfortunately, with our shoreline, it's a challenge to get a large amount of public into the water for these types of educational seminars.
Right.
We do some, I guess our only outreach is we do the annual responsible lawn care ad, but other than that, it's the public coming to our waters on their own.
Yeah, and we have the same challenge of public access to the recreational areas, and parking is also a big thing as well. So, but I've certainly enjoyed being able to attend your meeting, and I'd like to go to some of the other commissions around the state and listen and that sort of thing. And many of your comments in your agenda is some of the same things we face in Stonington every month. We have the similar sort of topics. It's really interesting.
Thank you, Austin.
Well, Marcia, thank you very much. Peter, I have enjoyed listening in and being able to participate. And Marcia and I will be in touch should you want a supply of these for whatever purpose you deem them to be appropriate. And Rick, I think you're the one that made the comment about the 2.5 inches. You know, I might be able to get my producer to actually add that notch on the right-hand side of the kite and label it as such, and it'd just be kind of interesting, you know, that way, and you know, make it a special order kind of thing. But
seems like it's simple enough to be done. But I do have one more comment to make.
Sure.
You know, I guess we've already lost Hilliers. You know, from a business standpoint, I would think that they would want to sell permits. You know, maybe they only make, you know, $3 on a permit, but some people who go in there probably buy clam rakes, clam knives, gauges, floating buckets. So I don't think we would want to be in competition with our suppliers. I think it's best to let the outlets sell the gauges.
You know, that may be right. I think you just want to make it available to someone, but it's the outlet, the bait and tackle shops are the one where we think this is where this is going to be distributed.
Right, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for having me and bumping me up. And I have these same technical problems with Stonington as I try to take minutes, believe it or not. And I don't know what it is with my, you know, with my Zoom, or we use WebEx, but they're all the same. But I certainly do appreciate the time and enjoyed seeing you and saying hello. And I look forward to perhaps participating in another one of your meetings again.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So this is our last Zoom meeting before we go in person. So if you're bored on the third Thursday of each month, you can join us in person.
That's great. Thank you. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good night, all.
Good night.
All right. Moving on to old business item B, review and potential action identification of an accounting firm to perform our audit. At the last meeting, we had asked Pat to meet with the first selectman or the finance director to discuss about what level of audit was required. And so, Pat, do you have any update on that?
I emailed the Waterford first selectman several times, and he got back to me. He was out of town, and I think it was a Thursday night. He sent me an email at like 11 o'clock at night to meet with Kim Allen, the finance director, about it. I sent him out a sheet of I printed out financial statements for the 19-20 year, the April to date financials you have tonight. I printed out, I went to the AICPA printed out the review engagement, what it entails. It's like 40-some pages. I also printed out the new review peer group requirement that's going to add costs. After 3 years of any audits, the firm has to hire one of their peer CPA firms to review their work, which is going to add the cost. But I went over everything with her, and she did point out that the town of Waterford's audit for this year had to be done remotely, and they ran into the same type of circumstances. I also reviewed the fact that although the AICPA enhanced review engagement says they don't confirm balances of the investment accounts, we are giving the CPA firm access to all of our cash accounts. They'll be able to look at the checking, the money market, mutual certificates, et cetera, et cetera. My own opinion is if we wait for blessings on this, we're probably going to be late in the year before we get an audit done. And this covers what the town of Waterford's concern is. The town of Waterford treasurer embezzled money many years ago, back in the 70s. The two of the firehouses had embezzlements. There were embezzlements with the PTAs, etc. So the Board of Finance years ago invoked a requirement that any outside firm must supply an audit. This is an audit. Maybe your misconception is because we've done a certified audit historically, you don't realize that a review engagement or a compilation engagement is still an audit, and it's what they're looking for. The town of Waterford wants to make sure that the funds that flow through the organization are there and not being embezzled. So I would like to recommend we go ahead with the review engagement, and of the two firms, we go ahead with the Stewart Monday.
So Pat, I have a question for you. Is it possible that we could get the endorsement in the next week or two? I am worried that if we go through this and then they say no, that's not going to work. We spend a lot of money and they're just going to say you got to do it all over again. I think that obviously now we're working with a licensed CPA with Premier. We have a little more, a little less liability. But I would like to get some type of maybe an email endorsement or something like that from the town of Waterford. It just, if we had to wait a week or two, it might be.
If you want to table this till the next meeting, and I suggest you send Rob a email and ask for that endorsement. It took me how many weeks to even get him to respond to me.
Yeah.
I think he's out of town. I think you saw the email from him. He's going to be out of town for a week or two.
Yeah.
If I may?
Go ahead, Marcia.
I had a retirement commission meeting with Kim Allen, which we didn't have a quorum, so we had to cancel. So I did talk to Kim at 5 o'clock tonight, and she said she was recommending to Rob that we go ahead with that she thought the review engagement was an okay thing for an organization our size, and she was going to recommend to Rob that he go forward with that. So I think that's a pretty safe bet, but I agree with you. I think it should be in writing, and I think we can count on Kim. She's pretty efficient to forward that very quickly and get it done. However, I do worry that the quotes that were given to us before were not apples to apples. One was for a 1-year audit and the other one was for a 2-year audit. I would like to see the same parameters given to both or all the auditing firms, and let's get real.
They were given the same parameters, but the Sue Jones refused to give us a 2-year quote. She said she wants to do the 2 years separately. The other factor in this whole thing is that for the 2021 year, and you could look at your financial statements, we've got no money from either town.
We've got no money from what?
Either town. They both held back the grant money and told us to fund the pump boat.
Right,
So if we've gotten no money from the towns in 2021, what is our exposure to having an audit if we didn't get any town funds?
But you did get some funds from Waterford. You just didn't get the pump boat funds. You got some funds from both towns.
No.
We got 2,500 from Waterford's.
Yeah.
And it was 1,500 from East Lyme.
Yes.
So I would, if Marcia, your conversation with Kim Allen is indicating that we could pursue the
review engagement.
We have to clear this up. You're totally wrong. Look at your financial statement, profit and loss.
All right, so Pat, I'm agreeing.
Zero money from either town this physical year.
Okay, so Pat, I agree with you and Marcia that I'm comfortable pursuing this lower level of audit based on the information. In the meantime, I will send an email to Kim Allen asking her for approval while this is in the works. I think that's a good way to pursue it. I don't know if anyone objects to that.
I just have a couple comments. One, I think that this audit is only required by the town of Waterford. It's not an ordinance or regulation. It's not a state rule. East Lyme doesn't require it. So if Waterford requires it, Waterford can make the rules. And if Waterford is happy with having us go down to that lower level of the audit, that's a good idea because it'll be less costly and less time consuming. I also agree with Pat that fiscal 2021, we're getting no money from Waterford. I would say that we don't have to do the audit, or we should at least get an opinion. If we're not receiving money from Waterford, no Waterford's money is flowing through Wellsco, then perhaps going forward, we will not have to do the audit.
I think you did get money from Waterford.
You didn't get money. Not in 2021. Look at the financial statement.
The budgets have just been passed, and I thought Waterford gave you $2,500, but did not give you money for the pump out.
That is for the 21-22 fiscal year. That's next fiscal year budget. Starts in July 1st of 21.
Well, okay. I don't, we could go on back
I
and
know
forth.
you
on
don't.
like it. I don't know, but as I recall, they only canceled the pump out boat, and they did not cancel the audit money. But I will check with Kim on that because she is certainly on the ball about what exactly Waterford got. And the reason that Waterford requires an audit is because Wellsco falls under social services, and all social services grants require an audit.
Marcia, so I would request that, Pat as the treasurer,
Oh, okay.
make the communications with Kim, just because
Fine.
if there's so many people interacting, it might
Fine.
muddy the waters a
That's
little
fine.
bit.
That's fine.
I appreciate your contacts, but Pat is our treasurer, so that might be easier for that
Okay.
pathway.
Peter, I have one more comment.
Go
So
ahead.
if in the future, Waterford either keeps reducing or gives us a minimal amount, and then our audit costs are higher than we get from Waterford, we should just decline getting any money from Waterford. We're losing money on it anyway. If they're giving us $1,500 and our audit's $2,500, why not just tell them to keep their $1,500 bucks?
I would agree. The audit requirement was contingent, or the funding was contingent upon the audit. And if there's no funding, then the audit is, it just doesn't seem to be, like you just said, if we spend more money than we get, that's something that we as a commission should consider.
And I questioned, Peter, the pump boat situation. We proposed to them that this coming year, we would fund $2,500 out of our funds to the pump boat. Did the towns agree to that they were gonna fund 25 each?
It was my understanding that on the East Lyme side, they did agree. And it will have to be, wait and see whether, the money comes from Waterford. I think we'll pay the 2,500, and if the other towns, if Waterford and East Lyme don't pay, then that is very unfortunate, and that is up to Save the River, Save the Hills to ask the two towns why they are not abiding by their agreement.
And didn't you say that Waterford Finance Committee trimmed their request of 5,000 to 2,500?
Yeah, and that is one of the questions as to, I did send Rob Rule an email and he did not reply. This was during the budget season, to ensure that the 2,500 they were giving us were general funds and were not earmarked for the pump out boat as their third of the pump out boat funding, and he did not respond. My understanding is that the $2,500 that they gave us were general funds, and they were still on the hook for the pump out boat $2,500. So again, like Rick said, if they gave us $2,500 for the pump out boat as a pass through, then they still did not give us any money for the audit, in which case now we're paying for an audit for money that we got no money from them. So
plus we're paying for the pump boat too.
Yeah, we're paying double. Instead of getting money for the audit and the pump out boat, then they cut our funding, they make us do the audit, and then they make us pay for the pump out boat.
If we cut the two towns a check for $25,000 each, they'd probably go away and leave us alone.
That's
Peter,
an interesting idea.
Peter, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Refresh my memory, but I believe, and I don't know, I might have made the motion, but I believe I made a motion or something was that we would pay like up to $3,000, towards the pump out boat, or up to 2,500. And, it was kind of like we would match the towns. If the towns put in $1,500, we put in 1,500, et cetera. So we worded it so it was up to 2,500 or up to 3,000. And I believe then Mr. Nickerson did send an email that said they would do their portion. And I'm pretty sure that Rob Brule at least said, it might not be written down anywhere, he said they had no plans on stopping to pay their portion of the pump out boat. So I guess my question is, did we actually vote on a $2,500 number, or are we still with the up to 3,000?
Yes, so from my recollection, the motion that you gave was the motion that was approved, and that was up to 2,500 of matching funds.
Okay.
And again, it gets a little dicey if East Lyme pays, but then Waterford has a different opinion on how that's allocated.
But
I think it would be what's that?
It gets dicey for Save the River, Save the Hills, not for us. We can give them $1 or we can give them $2,500. We can do whatever we want. But
True.
If Waterford doesn't come through, then Save the River, Save the Hills will have to, raise their own funds somewhere.
Yeah, and we're not there yet, but I think that it's just my opinion, but I think Wellsco benefits from the pump out boat more than anyone. So if we just paid our share and then the two towns pay nothing or whatever, we've done our moral contribution.
What the two selectmen said when we paid the 4,000, we weren't paying anything. They said for us to fund the pump boat, which was $7,500.
Right. That was a contribution on our behalf. And
when
so
we
this year
contributed the 4,000, they said they were going to take the money that they had approved for our grants and pay it to the pump boat. So one of the things I'd like to know is, did they pay during the 2021 year, did they pay money directly to the pump boat?
We just have to ask Save the River, Save the Hills if they got any money from those.
Right. But that's what I'm
Point of
saying.
order, Mr. Chairman, we are trying to decide whether to go ahead with an accounting firm, and I'd like to get back to that. That is what the business is at hand on 5B, not the
Right.
pump out vote. So maybe
Yeah.
we should get back to what the agenda item is.
Yep, we got a little sidetracked, and it is all related to money, so it's a little bit related to the audit. But so does anyone want to make a motion that we authorize Pat to pursue the lower level of audit while I get written confirmation from Kim Allen that is acceptable? What do you guys think is the best course of action?
I'll make that motion. I think that's fine.
I would support that also, but without a commitment made to them that we would go forward with it.
So we do it one way or the other.
Well, I'm saying that Pat research it to see if we should do it without committing the fact that we will do it.
So Pat's done a ton of research. I think the way to go is for, he has gotten a commitment for the 2-year audit. I think that's the one that we should go for because we are 2 years due. The person who is not going to commit to 1 year, to 2 years, I don't think they should get it because Pat has given them the information and they should be able to decide whether they can do 1 or 2 years. And if they don't want to commit to 2 years, then they're not going to meet our needs.
No, I agree with that. I'm just saying that should we do an audit? If we're not getting any money, as Rick pointed out and several others, then why do an audit? If we're not getting any money from Waterford, do we really need to do an audit? And that's what I meant by commit, that's all.
Yeah, so that's a line in the sand, I think. If we decide not to do the audit, we're not getting any money. We've sealed our fate.
Okay,
So if you know, it's your decision from the commission what you guys want to do, but I do caution you that if we make this decision that we're not going to do the audit, then we're definitely not getting money.
and if we say we're gonna do the audit and we don't get any money, then we're gonna pay for something that we don't get any money for. That's all I'm
yeah,
saying about commitment. I'm saying research
yeah,
it.
totally hear you.
All right,
Well, so a couple things. One, you know, if we don't do an audit and we don't get any money, the worst we're doing is breaking even. If we get $1,500 from them and we have to pay $2,500 for an audit, we're losing $1,000. But I just want to get back to Marcia's motion. You guys keep talking about an audit, but Marcia, the motion is for the lower level that Kim Allen will accept. Is that correct?
That is correct. That she will, that she suggested that a review engagement, what's called a review engagement, is appropriate for our commission. And she would relay that to Rob Rule and move forward on that.
Yeah, so my opinion would be at this time, since we got to do one for last year and this year, I think we should do it, at least get us up to date. And then going forward, we can decide if we want to keep doing it in the future.
All
so
right.
is there a motion on the floor then concerning that?
Yes, so we go ahead with a review engagement, and that Peter will contact Kim Allen and confirm that it is what the town will accept.
And I would
All right.
second that.
And the that is with the firm that will do the 2-year audit,
Right.
correct, Marcia?
Well, I didn't put any, I just went with the type of audit. I'm not going with the audit firm. Let's do 2 separate motions, okay? You want to have a separate motion. I want to just have the motion say that we will proceed with a review engagement audit as per Kim Allen's suggestion to Rob Rule, confirming from Rob Rule. That's my motion. It doesn't have anything to do with the accounting firm that we're hiring.
And then we're going to do a second one right after this.
Yeah, but I'm not going to be the one that's going to suggest that one.
All right. Do I hear a second to Marcia's motion to,
I think Fred seconded
I
it.
believe Fred already seconded it.
Yeah.
Fred, was that your second based on that clarification?
Yes, it was. Not a selection of who, but that we would do it this way.
All right. Okay, motion is on the table to have a review engagement performed while I confirm with Waterford Finance Director Kim Allen that Waterford will endorse this audit strategy. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained?
Yeah,
All right, motion passes 8-0. All right, now, do you guys want to make a motion to have Pat continue discussions and possible, agreement with the company that will do a 2-year audit with us? Is there a discussion on that? Do we want to have a motion?
I mean, I think we should do it. You know, we got to get these things out of the way and move on. So if Pat is comfortable with the firm that'll do the 2-year, level 2 audit or whatever it was called, not the full audit, but the executive accounting engagement, then we probably should go ahead and do it.
All right, Pat,
For the
what is the
record,
name of
what's the name of that firm?
Yeah,
Stewart and Monday.
Monday,
Stewart.
like,
And Monday is Monde. They
Okay.
are one of the largest firms in the state that does municipal and municipal government and financial institutions.
all right, Stewart is Stewart.
WARD.
D or T?
D.
D, Steward. And Monday, Monde.
Correct.
All right. Rick, is that a formal motion?
I want to ask Pat one more question. Pat, we have a quote from these people for a regular full audit for 2 years, but not the executive level. Is that correct?
I don't understand the question.
I thought
Do
you
we
had
have
a,
quote? Do we have a quote for the review engagement by Stewart and Mundy?
Yeah, I sent copies of that to everyone.
Do you have that information available for us now?
Well, I guess the question is the estimate that they gave you, the proposal that they gave you, is that for an audit that's qualitatively different than the executive engagement review that Marcia says is likely to be acceptable to Waterford?
I believe Marcia is talking about the review engagement.
She is.
Correct. So is the quote that you got from Stewart and Mundy, is that the quote for a review engagement level?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
How much was it for?
5,500
For 2 years?
for 2 years. The other firm, Sue Jones, the one that you contacted with Holt, and I forget the other names, but she wanted to do the 2 years separately, and she didn't want to quote on 2 years. She said she'll quote us on the 1920, do that, and then she would come back and quote us after that was done and on the other.
So that is competitive with previous year's audits. So,
Well, the last audit we had was $2,450 for a year. Going forward, we may see even this lower level audit go up because of that this new peer review requirement.
One of the issues with one of the things about a review engagement is it does not require peer review.
So I think this is the issue. The question was asked by Larry or Rick. I'm not sure who, but are we comparing apples to apples, or are we comparing this? Would you refer to it as, Marcia?
Review engagement.
Review engagement as what was being done in the past, and if we are, then we can't make a comparison here.
it's not, Fred, but there's a little bit of a challenge here in that there's one auditor that doesn't want to give us a quote for 2 years. Our previous auditor is no longer doing the work. You know, we could keep going looking for options, but these are in the ballpark, I think.
Okay.
but just to answer Fred's questions, we're not really doing apples to apples comparison. We're doing a cost to cost comparison. In the past, it was 2,500 for a full audit. Now Pat just informed us that it's 2,750 a year for the executive engagement. So this goes back to my question. If this lower level is costing us more, and let's say in the next few years it goes up to $3,000 a year, and we're getting nothing from Waterford, then we're losing $3,000 a year. We might as well just tell Waterford, don't give us anything, and we'll save the difference. But for the time being, I think we need to get this done to get us caught up And then it's time for a future discussion is whether we're actually going to continue to do this or not. So I will make a motion that we have Pat engage Stewart and Mundy to get us caught up to date with this review engagement for the last year and this year.
All right, do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
All right. All right. So the motion on the floor is to have Pat discuss with Stewart and Mundy to conduct the review engagement audit, 2 years at a cost of $5,500. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Abstain.
All right. Fred abstains, 7-0 to 1. All right. Awesome. We are moving along. We'll be done by 10 o'clock at no time. All right. Old business C, purchase of clams and oysters in 2021. Fred, if you want to give us an update.
Short and sweet. We have a deal as far as the clams are concerned. It was recommended by Norm Bloom that they not be purchased and distributed until after Memorial Day because of the water temperature. Pete, I sent you something on this. If the commission agrees, then we can move forward. I'll get a firm date from them as we can move closer to that. But they're talking about the second or third week in June when the water temperature is better for reproduction and so forth for the clams.
Yes, and so
That's number one.
Yep,
I'm sorry?
and the commission in their previous vote seemed to give you their trust, and you can pursue that, I believe.
Okay, well, I tentatively did. We got the same price that we did last year. And what I tentatively agreed to was 64 bags, which is a 200 count bag, and at $45 a bag, $75 delivery, and that would be $2,955. And we will, as we move closer to the end of May, we'll firm up with them a date that they can deliver the clams for our distribution. My question though, at this point is, and they asked me this, is during the week okay versus during the week on a weekend for them to deliver the clams? I don't know Rich's schedule, so it's difficult. I couldn't answer the question for them.
Yeah, I think we can work out a delivery during that time. So I wouldn't say no based on those factors.
Okay. Now, second subject is the oysters.
Yeah.
That's a flip from last year. There was I contacted 6 different oyster farmers and got responses from 5, and all 5 of them said they could not fulfill our order this year. This year meaning this spring, but that I should come back to them if I wanted to consider having them delivered in the fall, because their stock was so low for various reasons. The primary reason is the retail market. They've got big demand on the retail market. So I told them that I'd get back to them, and that's where we stand. We at the present time, nothing from 6 different providers is available for the spring, but I got a feeling just by talking with them that maybe if we deal with 2 or 3 of them, we may be able to get the supply that we want moving towards the fall of the year, because right now they don't have the stock. So without belaboring the point.
I think that's a better time for oysters anyway. The hot water in the summer isn't good for oyster seed.
Yeah, so that sounds good, Fred, and you know, I'm glad that they're able to sell to all these restaurants, and maybe they don't have oysters for us, so good for them.
Do you
So,
need a motion to move forward with the oysters?
I think the motion from the previous meeting is still in place where, unless anyone objects to the work that Fred has been doing, I think he can continue with our blessing.
Sounds good to me.
God bless.
Okay, got it.
Fred, thank you for all your work on this.
You're quite welcome.
So, all right. Oh, I'm sure Rich has signed off. Rich Schmiel, are you still on the line by chance? All right. Old business item D, related to the dock condition. I did have a phone conversation with Rob Avina, the Waterford attorney, and he did discuss that the town is looking at the dock condition, and they are gonna in better repair than the chain situation. The email that Larry sent did get their attention, and they're going to have an engineer look at the dock. And Rob Avina cautioned me that if the engineer deems the dock to be unsafe, then our boat will not be able to be docked there during the repairs. So that is a small risk, and I think we could figure it out, and we'll manage it when we have to manage it. We could put the boat on the trailer perhaps. There's no slip space in the Nyack River, so I don't know where else it could go. But that was communicated to me from the Waterford Town Attorney. So
Years ago, when they were building those, we negotiated with the DEP back then, and we actually had the boat tied up to the launch docks for a while. So we
okay. Yeah, that's a possibility. So anyway, that's an update on that situation.
So Peter, I would offer that the boat could be kept in my dock temporarily if there's some repairs that take a week or two or something.
Excellent. All right. All right. Okay, old business item E we have covered. Oh, this is exciting. New business item A, allowance for in-person meeting after May 20th, 2021. I sent you the email from the first selectman of East Lyme, and so after the 20th, we cannot continue to have Zoom meetings based on the state emergency statute, executive order. So this is our last Zoom meeting. How exciting.
Yay. Woohoo!
Yeah, we're not going to be able to wear our pajamas anymore. So
Why?
So I checked into our meetings in Waterford are held in the large room. There is still a 50% capacity contingency on our meetings. When we are in Waterford, the large room can obviously hold everyone who wants to attend our meeting. In the East Lyme, their large room, we conflict with the zoning board. So the room that we normally meet in, meeting room 1, I did check in there last week, and that has a capacity of 32 people. So when you cut that in half, it's down to 16. So if all of us 8 show up, plus our ex officio, plus that allows us for 5 members from the public, which in these days, we only are averaging 2 or 3. So I think we should be able to manage having our meetings in East Lyme as well in the small room. There is a small risk that if many people from the public attend, we will have to cancel the meeting, just because the public
Peter,
has to be able.
which town would be June meeting?
The June meeting, here's our schedule. The June meeting is in Waterford.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's my suspicion that as this proceeds, the 50% capacity will go away as well. So I'm not too worried about that. I think we'll be fine. I think if you look at some of the other commissions, we have held almost all of our meetings. So we have really gotten a lot done this during these restrictions. So I'm really happy about that. Some of the other commissions have met only a handful of times. So I'm really thrilled that we were able to proceed. Everyone dealt with the technology and the limitations. So I think we should really be proud of ourselves as a commission that we got things done, and we had a lot to do as well. So thank you, everyone.
Well, I'd like to just thank you. I think most of the burden of arranging these meetings and coordinating them and has fallen on your shoulders. So most of the thanks, I think, belongs to you.
Absolutely.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So,
I agree with you, Peter, and with your technical skills, I have to say, I can't imagine sitting there trying to let people in and everything. You did a great job. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, moving along. Ex officio comments. Is Dan Cunningham here? I have not seen him trying to get in, so I can really check that out.
What about the
he is not
Waterford
here.
representative?
All right,
That's a
no ex
sarcastic.
officio comments. Yeah. All right, correspondence. There was a correspondence to Rick from the Niantic River Watershed Committee. This is an environmental committee that Rick and I serve on as representatives from Wellsco. And they have an initiative called Healthy Lawns, Healthy Rivers, which is very similar to the material that we have in our Sea Grant New London Day flyer. I sent you the information. Excuse me. Sent you the information, and it allows, it's just information on how to take care of your lawn without hurting the river or other bodies of water. Rick, you were there perhaps at the meeting. Do you want to comment more on that?
I think, like you said, Peter, this is very similar to the advertisement that went in the day. It's along the same lines. And I think in the past, they've had a packet that they've actually given out to people who live in the watershed or around the river. And I think they're asking Wellsco if we know anybody or any Wellsco members would like to either get some of this information from them or help distribute it. So if anybody's interested, we could probably get Judy Rondo to send some of this stuff to us.
Okay, great. All right. was there any other correspondence that I was not aware of? All right. Public comment. I don't think anyone else is here other than us. And then before we adjourn, I will tell you that I will not be, I'll be out of town on June 17th. So that will be the first in-person meeting. Larry, if you could manage that, I will, I'll put in the agenda and send out that material. And if you could run that meeting.
Okay.
So, all right. Any other comments from the commission before we adjourn?
Peter, just
Go ahead, Pat.
comment on one thing. The North B section is still open, and it'll stay open until we start to see the young people congregating at Sandy Point. But basically, as soon as school lets out, and I assume it's going to let out about the mid-June, we're probably going to see that closed until, you know, it'll probably close until late November or early December.
All right, thank you. That is quite confusing that we have 3 different dates, but I understand why it is. So.
We'll adjourn.
Yeah, Paul, is that you?
That's me. Let's go for it.
All righty.
Hey, it's not even 10 o'clock yet.
All right. Paul has made the motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. Tom Boland. Okay. All in favor to adjourn at 9:18 p.m. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right. Object? Abstain? All right. 8-0. Thank you, everyone. And I will see you in a couple months.